Alright, so today we're going to be talking about Naruto Dojutsus as a whole, because it's kind of been brought to my attention that a lot of people are not actually aware of what Dojutsus are in the Narutoverse. So I just kind of wanted to give a little refresher and, you know, cover some pretty cool Dojutsus that we see in the show and some I haven't really talked about too much yet. And as we go on, I might briefly explain what each one of them does, just so you have an idea, although I can go more in depth in a separate video if you guys want. So basically, a Dojutsu is a Kekkei Genkai or Kekkei Mora in like Kaguya's case. They're basically eyes or eye techniques that are given to the user either by usually inheriting them or getting them transplanted, right? The main ones include, you know, Biakugan, Rinnegan, Sharingan. For the longest time, these were considered the three great Dojutsus that were showcased throughout the Boruto anime, right? And something that a lot of people are actually confused about is they think that just because the character's eye changes, that means that they have a Dojutsu. For example, a lot of people are thinking, hey, Naruto's Sage Mode has these lines on his eyes, so that must be a Dojutsu, or the Nine-Tailed Fox, you know, changes his eyes, so that probably is a Dojutsu as well. That's not a Dojutsu at all. That's just an extension of the influence of the Nine Tails, or that is an extension of the physical changes that you undergo through when you enter Sage Mode as well. That's not a Dojutsu. Those eyes don't give him any abilities in and of themselves. That's just a result of other abilities, right? A Dojutsu is an ability, is an eye technique on its own, right? Like, for example, if you rip out if you rip out Obito's Sharingan, if you give it to Kakashi, that eye is the embodiment of those techniques, right? That eye gives Kakashi ability to separate techniques such as Kamui, right? And again, so Kekkei Genkai can be inherited, you know, they can be transplanted, and Kekkei Mora is not as seen as much, or not really talked about as much, but essentially that's kind of what we call Kaguya's techniques, because as far as we don't know, she obtained some of these powers through the God Tree, like the Rinne Sharingan. So right now, the known Dojutsus that are in the show that have been pretty thoroughly explained are the Biakugan. Ishiki's Dojutsu has been mentioned. I'm going to be talking about that one more in a separate video. The Jogan, Ketsuryugan, Sharingan, is an extension, Mangekyo Sharingan. There's another one, Ramuru's Kekkei Genkai, which isn't really talked about too often. The Rinne Sharingan, Rinnegan, and the Tenseigan. Now there are a couple more here and there, and a couple more extensions and some hypothetical Dojutsus, but I'm not going to talk about that too much in this video. We're just going to talk briefly about each of the Dojutsus, kind of what they are and what they do, just so you have an idea of what the Dojutsus are as a whole, right? So starting with the Biakugan, that's one of the first Dojutsus that we've seen in the show with Neji and Hinata. It's primarily shown through the Hyuga clan, and it basically gives the user, you know, 360 field of vision, as long with being able to see chakra pathways, and it is used hand in hand with the Gentle Fist, which is a taijutsu style of fighting, where the user targets the chakra points in order to disable their opponent. We also have Ishiki's Dojutsu. Again, I'm not really going to cover this one too much in a video. I'm just going to cover the more basic ones, which we've already seen before. The ones that require a little bit more explaining are the ones that we've seen later on in Boruto. I'm going to save that one for another video. Again, same thing with like the Jogan. I have a video on that one already. The Sharingan is another one of the big three. Essentially, the main abilities it gives the user access to is the Eye of Insight and the Eye of Hypnotism. The Eye of Insight allows you to, you know, copy abilities and predict movements of your opponent, and the Eye of Hypnotism is basically it basically gives you access to more potent genjutsu abilities. And the more advanced version of that is the Mangekyo Sharingan. Your Sharingan becomes more advanced over time. You know, it gets 1 tomo, 2 tomo, 3 tomo. After that, it can become Mangekyo Sharingan after you go through a very emotional and very stressful situation. With the Mangekyo Sharingan, usually each eye has a different ability. So you awaken 2, you get 2 different abilities. And they usually differ person to person, as well as the physical appearance. So, for example, Itachi has Tsukuyomi and Amaterasu, and like Obito has Kamui in both eyes, but they're Kamui for different that can be used for different reasons. And you know, Shisui, who has Kodowa Matsukami, I believe in both eyes actually. So they could be both. You could have the same ability in both eyes, but you could also have different abilities in each eye. Then we have the Rinnegan, which is one of the most advanced and most powerful Dojutsu, especially of the big three. We see a lot of characters kind of use this, like from Madara to Hagoromo to Sasuke later on. He has a more advanced Rinnegan with a Tomo on it, just as a physical representation that is stronger. Don't get it confused. Sasuke does not have the Rinne Sharingan, although in some dubs and some games they misrepresent it as a Rinne Sharingan. That's a separate ability that is a Kekemora from Kaguya. I actually talked about that in a separate video, the Rinne Sharingan, but the Rinnegan is a very separate ability. It gives you access to, you know, all 5 nature transformations and all the paths of pain, you know, the abilities that Nagato actually ended up using in the fights against Naruto and the Hidden Leaf Village. It allows you to, like, you know, suck souls out of bodies, you know, restore body parts, use technological body parts like rockets out of your hands, you know. It allows you to use Chibaku Tensei, Shinra Tensei, which I actually covered in another video as well as absorb jutsus and summon some special beasts. Now again, there are a couple more like Shion's Dojutsu and Yome's Dojutsu, but as a whole, from what we've seen in the show, that's pretty much it. There's nothing really more than this. I mean, again, there's a lot of people that I heard are arguing that Naruto has a dojutsu, because I made a video talking about hypothetically if Naruto were to have like a Sharingan, for example, what would probably happen. And some people had an issue with that, mainly because they said that he already has one. No, Naruto does not have a dojutsu at the moment. He does not have a Kekkei Genkai. He doesn't have a Kekemora. These visual eye changes that he goes through, they're not a result of a dojutsu. Dojutsu is kind of a separate thing. Its literal translation is eye techniques and their abilities that the ninjas utilize through their eyes as a byproduct of the Kekkei Genkai. But yeah, anyways, I don't want to go too in depth because some of these are kind of complicated and they require their own video. I just wanted to kind of talk about what these dojutsus are as a whole and kind of, you know, clarify any misconceptions you may have had. If you guys like more videos like this, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.